you, Senator. And the Senator mentioned this was a solution looking for a problem. I wouldn't even call it a solution. The legislation and ideas poorly conceived, woefully misguided, and especially troubling for qualified young electors and universities across the state. As the former director of the Franklin County Board of Elections, we worked hard in 2008 with our colleges and universities to make sure that students had every form of identification that they were entitled to. For those that don't remember, under previous administrations, when students didn't have that access, we had long lines, we had many provisional ballots, and it was students, among other populations in Ohio, that were directly affected, having to fill out provisional ballots, having those provisional ballots not counted because of small errors. And this effect of not making sure that they are provided all forms of identification that they're entitled to will continue that bad trend. What's happening for these students is they don't have a landlord. The university is their landlord. And so asking those universities to provide them a utility bill is the right thing to do. Students are used a P.O. box when they live on campus. You cannot register under Ohio law at a P.O. box. And so we worked with the universities very closely, particularly in 2008 when I was director of the Board of Elections in Franklin County, to make sure that this form, and the Secretary of State at the time was very helpful in working to find the solution, that these students were provided every means to have a proper form of identification. Nowhere in Ohio's history has residency at college universities also been tied to residency for voting purposes. To my understanding, universities weren't engaged in this discussion. It's my understanding the Ohio Association of Election Officials were engaged in this discussion. And that's why this is so misguided. As also someone that now represents 7 colleges and universities, as Rep. Clyde mentioned, this doesn't just have an impact on out-of-state students, it's also going to have an impact on in-state students. Those in-state students also have to use their P.O. box for address purposes, yet they live at their dorm. They also will need this identification. It will create long lines, and it's just a poor piece of legislation. Intended or not intended, it's going to be pitting universities against their students, likely leading to needless lawsuits, which we've seen before when we do these weird election bills. And so really urge the Senate to take a close look at what is good public policy, what's trying to be accomplished, and work with our universities and work with our election officials and our students to make sure that we're doing all we can to prevent long lines, to prevent an increase in provisional ballots. The legislation as is going to have that effect, and unfortunately it looks like it's somewhat